Well guys, there is a campaign gaining strength pushing for a vote of no confidence in Nicola Sturgeon, obviously in the hope of finally getting rid of her. The reasons for doing this are vast and obvious to anyone with half a brain cell, which excludes SNP voters unfortunately. She was a menace to Scotland even before this year, while being rather comical to the rest of the UK, because she is no more than a puppet of Westminster with no real power to do anything. It's literally called the illusion of power to get them all to shut up. We also have reports that Scottish voters would reject independence when they realise there will be no Great British Pound and Hadrian's Wall will have to go back up to keep the new SNP voters out that she wants to import. So it's really not looking good for old fish lips here. Now George Galloway, it seems, is adding to that, pushing a campaign to get rid of her that is gaining traction and was picked up by the Express with the headline, "Sturgeon Crisis, George Galloway launches campaign to oust SNP leader. Enough is enough." Enough has been enough for a good few years now, but I get your point. Nicola Sturgeon is facing a new crisis after a campaign was launched for a vote of no confidence to be called in Scotland's First Minister and her government. The campaign appears to have been started by veteran MP George Galloway, who is a huge vocal critic of the SNP and her establishment in Scotland. In particular, their continued push for independence from the rest of the UK. But now, Mr Galloway appears to have stepped up his campaign against the First Minister and her ruling party by launching a campaign to call a vote of no confidence in them. Launching the campaign on change.org, he wrote, "As #ResignSturgeon trends across social media, it has become clear that Nicola Sturgeon and her government are utterly incapable of working for the best interest of the Scottish people and Scotland, which if I'm honest with you has been pretty clear since the start of the SNP. Much like all political parties, they're in it for themselves, they don't give a flying fuck about the people in the country. In the interest of all Scots, it's time for Nicola Sturgeon to do the right thing, resign, and allow a cross-party government of unity to take over to see Scotland through this dark time, created after 13 years of SNP misrule." Now, I don't really know about that. That seems a bit undemocratic, and we all know what cross-party governments of unity are like. We tried our hardest to avoid one of them last year, and let me tell you, I certainly wouldn't wish it on the Scots. You might remember in 2019 the UK had a government of disunity, where the Remain Parliament was working against the government, forcing their hand to make them do things that they didn't want to. This to me sounds essentially like that, so I'm not really in favour of it. If a vote of no confidence is called in the government, then there should be a re-election and the people should get to vote. Because if you certainly get enough people to push a no confidence vote through, then it would suggest the SNP will not get in next time. While I hate the SNP, it still has to be democratically done. It continues, "If you agree, then please sign this petition, which we will deliver to Holyrood. Scotland deserves better than this haphazard, reckless and foolish SNP administration, which has literally failed lives in their pursuit of the never-endum and Scottish separatism." Because essentially, that is all they are about. They have nothing else. They are a one-trick pony. And let me tell you, once they got independence, they would swiftly drag Scotland straight into the ground. He finished up with, "We, the people of Scotland, say enough is enough. We call on Nicola Sturgeon to resign. And let me tell you, the people of England, Wales and Northern Ireland likely support you in the call to get rid of this dopey bin." The petition from Mr Galloway, which has received nearly 20,000 signatures at the time of writing, has received a wave of support from those opposed to Miss Sturgeon and her SNP government. One person wrote, "The First Minister said to judge her on education. I have, she has to go." Another commented, "This woman has let Scotland down big time. She won't sack the incompetence in her cabinet and has let the old people down drastically. Time to go. And I'm sick to the back teeth of hearing about independence." Well, she's not really going to sack the incompetence, is she, considering that she is actually one of them? And in my opinion, probably leads them in her levels of incompetency. Actually, no, I would suggest that might be Ian Blackford. And someone else commented, "This woman has split Scotland down the middle and still doesn't care." Last week, Miss Sturgeon's Scottish independence dream was torn apart by Mr Galloway, who rubbished the findings of a panel-based survey. The survey found 55% of Scots would vote in favour of independence, but the veteran politician pointed out a YouGov survey found it's now down to 53. He claimed the figure did not include don't know answers, which he said voted against independence in 2014. Which is something I have said before, you can never actually believe polls because they're always taken in ways that suit the people who want them done. And especially when it comes to a panel-based survey, as you will see in a moment. Speaking on a live Facebook broadcast for Alliance for Unity, Mr Galloway said, ESClad, numbers are on our side. The 2 previous polls were not actually polls, they were panel-based surveys, and you can only participate in a panel-based survey if you've already signed up to it. Which, surprise surprise, is obviously going to be full of SNP voters. Wouldn't surprise me if old Fishlips herself has been telling them to sign up. But in the latest polls, he continued, the SNP lead was not 55% but 53%, only if you exclude the don't knows. In 2014, at the referendum, the don't knows broke for us, for no by a huge proportion. Then there isn't a majority at all in the latest opinion polls. Please contest all these fake narratives as they come up and raise this contradiction. And fuck me, George Galloway, if you're contesting all these fake narratives, there's not enough time in the day, mate. They are coming left, right and centre from every fucking angle. Now when you add this news with what I said earlier about support for independents dropping if they don't get the pound and a hard border is erected, it would seem the SNP are royally in the shit. We can only hope that next year they either get absolutely trounced or George Galloway's campaign works and the SNP are ousted. Though I am not sure about his coalition government because they are always a clusterfuck, as I have said. And you all know how I feel if the SNP actually got independence, we would certainly need a hard border. Not because I dislike our Scottish brothers or anything like that, I wish they wouldn't leave, but because we know what the SNP will import into their country, and we know how easy it will be for them to just flow over here. I mean, we got 24 miles of water between us and France, yet the piss poor government still let people flow over there in their thousands. Can you imagine if that was a land border?
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors. Slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going and we are glad to be going. We're off.